Hi and welcome to part 2 of section 4, Animate the Walk Cycle. In this section we'll be keyframing the main stride poses, we'll be adding animation between those poses, we'll be keyframing the arm rotation, and finally we'll add some animation to the paths in the arms. Right, so if we open up After Effects again, and we've got our character on his loop, what we're going to do, we're going to uncheck the soloed head and torso layer. Now when we play back our RAM preview, we're going to see our character starting to bounce up and down. We're going to add the strides next. So we're going to start over here back at the left marker, and at the beginning we're going to start just with the left leg. The left leg and the left marker is going to be leading. So we open up our contents, go into our shape, go into our path, find our stroke again. What you're going to need to do is hold shift and click to animate and alter the path in here. And we're going to adjust the curves, so that this leg is now curved forward. We want the foot to sit flush on the ground. Well, we've got it where we want it, we're going to keyframe it. Next, we're going to go to the right marker, and at this point the right foot is going to be out in front, and so our left foot is going to be at the back. Now the foot doesn't need to sit flush to the ground anymore, he's just going to be about to raise it to take his next stride, so we can curve it like that. Now we've got a motion between our strides. Finally, what we're going to do on this leg is copy and paste our first keyframe to close the loop. So there we go. Now we have a looping animation of the left leg. Now what we're going to do is select our back leg, go into Contents, Shape, Path, and select our path, hold Shift, click on one point on the leg, and this position, this leg is going to be in the backward state. So there we are. I'm going to keyframe our path. We're going to go to the right marker, and at the right marker we want our right leg to be leading. So again, adjust your path so that the curve creates a nice front leading leg, and then once again close the loop by copying and pasting your original keyframe. Now what we're going to start to have, if we hit our RAM preview, is something approaching the beginnings of a walk cycle. Now in this next step we're going to create the animation between each stride. So we're going to select our front leg, this is our left leg, and we'll see that if we move along the timeline between our left and right strides, this leg is going backwards, which means that in the middle here, this leg should be on the ground pushing our guy forwards. So what we're going to do, select our path, and for this keyframe, what we're going to do is drop our leg down and straighten it up slightly. There we go. And there's our guy. Now if we scrub through the keyframes again, we're going to see that he's starting to look like he's pulling his rear leg through as he places his front leg. We're going to move along to point 2 here between the right and left strides, and we're going to see that between the right and left strides, this front leg is going to be pulling underneath before he plants his foot again for the left stride. So what we're going to do at point 2 is lift our leg right up and curl it underneath like that. So now if we solo our left leg, we're going to have something approaching a walking leg. Now it's not quite right yet, and we're going to fix that in a minute, but first we're going to do the same thing to our rear leg. Now this leg here is pulling forward, so at point 1, we're going to tuck this leg under. There we go. Curve that out. And then at point 2, as the rear leg is pushing us forwards, we're going to plant it back down on the ground with our guide. Now if we save that and hit round preview, we're starting to get something close to a walk cycle. Now again, slightly mechanical because we're using all flat keyframes. We want to add some character to it. We're going to select all our corresponding keyframes that we're going to add ease to, and you can spot them. They're the ones underneath they're the ones that are next to the keyframes on the torso that have got easing on, these slightly misshapen keyframes. I'm going to select them. They're the points at 1 and 2. We're going to go animation, keyframe assistant, easy ease. We're going to go animation, keyframe velocity, and we're going to add our high influence 66% keyframe influence again. Save that, and now if you play back our walk cycle, we've got something with a lot more character. And now lastly, we're going to add some animation to the arms. So this time we're going to be adding rotational animation to both. So we want to open up our arm layer, go into rotation, and now as our front leg is forwards, we're going to pull our front arm back. And we're going to keyframe that. And then on our right stride, when the leg is back, we're going to pull the arm forward. And again, we're going to copy and paste to close our loop. Now on the other side here, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to open up our transformation. When this arm is forwards and backwards, this one's going to be forwards. When the other arm's forwards, this one's going to be back. And then copy and paste to close the loop again. And we're going to select all of these and give them some keyframe assistant easing. And this time for velocity, because we're using velocity all the time, we're going to use something a little bit lower. We're going to use 44. And we play that back, and our guy is nearly complete. The very last thing we're going to do, we're going to add some path animation to our arms. So we're going to go into the shape layer and select the path. Here's our path. And when our guy's arm is bent back, we're going to bend at the elbow here. When our guy's arm is forward, we're going to keyframe in a slightly straighter arm. And then once again, we're going to copy and paste our keyframe to close our loop. We're going to do the same thing on this rear arm. So at the beginning of the stride, this path is going to be flattened out. And there we go. Let's curve it the other way. As he's pulled his arm back, we're not going to be able to see it here, but we're going to curve his elbow out. And then once again, copy and paste, close the loop. We're going to select these keyframes, as we did before, for both arms. And we're going to add our easing and our keyframe velocity, 44. Now we can select everything, close it down, and when we hit our RAM preview, there we go. Now we've got a guy walking. Now you can stop there, but what we're going to do, we're going to select all our keyframes, and on the keyboard we're going to hit the letter U. And what that's going to do is bring up all our used keyframes. Now as we did earlier with the head, we're just going to copy, we're going to select for each layer, we're going to copy and paste our keyframes onto the end of each loop, and that's just going to double the length of our loop. So there we go for both arms. We're going to copy and paste the keyframes of both legs, and we've already got it done on our torso and body. And what we're going to do now is start to slide these keyframes around and create animation that's got a little bit of secondary motion to it. And you can just play about with these. I'm going to move his arms forward there so you can see that he's sort of walking with a bit more purpose, or you can slide them back. And see that they're kind of lagging behind the walk cycle. What you can do on top of that is move the path keyframes against the rotational keyframes, and you'll get arms that have more of a kind of circular movement to them. They're not just swinging, they're sort of rotating. Now as we hit play on the RAM preview, there we have it, your fully animated looping character walk cycle.